Now let's move on to push buttons. So we need to implement push buttons in our screen. Different push buttons in the program are to be implemented in such a way that the appropriate processing for the user action is executed. So we're going to add two push buttons to the screen, the back and the save. And the button that we already have is the enter, but we are going to add some functionality to it. So if the user chooses the back push button, he or she returns to the basic list without writing any changes to the database table. The message "you left the screen without saving" is displayed in the status bar of the basic list. If the save button is chosen, the changes are executed in the database and the user returns to the basic list with a corresponding message in the status bar. If the enter button is chosen, the screen is displayed again. Flow for choosing a push button. So if the user chooses a push button, the runtime system copies the assigned function code to a special screen field of the OK type. This screen field is typically called the OK code, defining push buttons and assigning function codes. Ahorita no estés entrando, pues porque he hecho llave.
No quiero ver bulla ni nada.
Es que no es por bulla, porque tengo que interrumpir el video y volver a empezar. You can do so using the maintenance of the field attributes. So let's assign function codes and let's create some push buttons in our screen. So in our program, we need to create two push buttons to go back. So let's create another session one more time, and let's close the previous session. And I go back to my program. Double click, and I go to my screen. Double click, push the change, and now I'm going to navigate to the screen painter to add the push buttons. So I click on layout and wait for the screen painter to load. It's gonna take a while. Sometimes, there you go. Oh. I'm going to close this and this for now. So now I want to add two push buttons. So I select this icon from the screen and then I add. And then as you can see, I need a text. So this is the back. I need a name. So this is the button_btn for button. And then I still need one more time. So I double click to display the properties and I see the function code is needed. So the function code is going to be back. Back is going to be my code. And then I add another button. And this is the save, and the save button, and the function code save also. So I save, and then I go back, or I activate first. And then I can go back using the flow logic. So now I have two push buttons on my screen. Remember the OK code that I told you about? So we go to the element list, and as you can see, we have the back button and the save button. And if we want to see their function codes, we can navigate to mod groups function, and we can see the back and the save function group. We go back to general attributes, and then we have the OK type here. Remember, this was called, normally you name this the OK code. It's the name that most of the ABAP programmers use, and in SAP, in everywhere, you're going to see the OK code a lot. So just go ahead and use the OK code name. And I activate one more time. Now I have 2 push buttons on my screen. Let's take a look at it. The program, run it. And now I have the back and the save push buttons. But I still need to program some functionality on these 2 buttons. So now we're going to implement some functionality to our buttons, implementing the function code transport. The special screen field with which the respective function code is transported to the program is called a command field and is available on the screen by default. To use it, you must enter a name for it. Normally, the name OK code is used. You declare the program internal data object with the same name by assigning the type to the system field sci-ucom. The call screen statement is used to trigger screen processing. This includes the following steps. PBO processing. In preparation for the screen display, the PBO modules listed in the PBO block are processed successively. Field transport from the program to the screen. After PBO processing, the contents of the field tables, the fields of the tables structure are transported to the screen fields with the same names. The screen display. The screen that has been assigned values is sent to the presentation server SAP-GUI and shown to the user. The field transport from the screen to the program. Each user action on the screen triggers the transport of the field content to the fields with the same names in the table structure. PAI processing. As a reaction to the user action, the modules listed in the PAI are processed successively. The modules. Modules are source code blocks without interface. They are enclosed by the ABAP statements module and end module. For each subfunction in PBO or PAI, a corresponding module should be implemented. Caution. You must be careful with this. The flow logic on the screen, PBO and PIA, only contains reference to modules, which are implemented in the program and consist of ABAP statements. ABAP source code may not be stored directly in the flow logic. Evaluating the function code of the PAI event. Usually, the module with the main processing in PAI is called the user underscore command underscore, and then you specify the screen number, where NNN represents the screen number. There are 2 ways to create a module: using forward navigation from the flow logic, that means double clicking, or using the navigation area of the object navigator, that means right click with the context menu and select create new PVO module or PIA. Please note that modules starting with module output are PBO modules and can only be called by the PBO of a screen. Accordingly, PAI modules starting with module input can only be called by PAI. So let's take a look at this graphic of the modules. How does this work? So we have the ABAP program. Inside the ABAP program, remember that we have the call screen ABAP statement. That call screen first triggers the process before output modules, so that prepares the screen for output. After the screen is prepared for output, the user can interact with the screen. So now the user types in the flight duration and the departure time, and he or she clicks on save or on back. So when they click on save or back, the process after input is triggered, and the modules that are contained in it are called. So there you can go ahead and write your module user command, and you specify the screen number. This is the user command module for the screen 100. Inside the module, then you can write your ABAP code. So in this case, you write a case containing the OK code, and the OK code contains the function that you program for each button. So for example, when you click on the back, then the OK code will contain the function code back. So when back is executed, the code in the back case will be executed. The same for save, and you can add as many push buttons and as many cases you need. So let's add some code to our push buttons and create some models. Back in our program, we still can't exit this because we haven't programmed this. So we create a new session, and remember to always close the previous one. I click on change, and now remember I navigate to my screen, and I want to create my model process after input. So I uncomment this. Normally the proposed model is okay, so yes, I want the user command 100 model. I double click to create it because it does not exist. Create, yes, I use the forward navigation to create. And I always like to create a new include for models of the process before output, and a new include for the models for the process after input. So this is going to be cFlight screen PAI underscore and the screen number for my include. So all my models are going to be in this include. Yes, create, and yes, save. And include is going to be inserted. Yes, okay. And now this include already existed. So we have a, well, it's not a problem there, but I'm just going to erase the code that we had here before, and I'm just going to leave my new code. So I'm going to just paste this here for a while. There you go. So now inside my model, I can write the case and the OK code. And remember the function code I assigned when back is pressed, and when save is pressed, or when others. I'm going to perform the code. I check my syntax, and the system tells me the OK code is unknown. That is because I need to declare my OK code like the site you come. Now I check activate my model for my screen program, and I also want to activate all my objects that I have inactive, and now my model is active. let me tell you about the next screen, zero effect. If you enter the screen attribute next screen 0, the system first processes your screen completely and then returns to processing at the point where the screen call is set. If you use the next screen, the same screen effect, if a screen is assigned its own screen number as the next screen, it is processed again after it is closed. So dynamically overriding the default next screen. This is going to be useful for our enter and our back push button. So you can use the ABAP statement set screen from a bundle, typically a PAI model, to dynamically override the default next screen specified in the screen attributes. If you press the enter key, you return to the same screen. Only certain push buttons will move you onto the subsequent screens. For your screen, enter its own screen number as the next screen, default next screen, and branch to other screen using the set screen command from the PAI only if certain push buttons are pressed, in this case the back button. By default, the enter button does not insert a function code into the command field of the screen. Hence, the initial value of the field space is transported to the program as the function code. So whenever the OK code contains a space, that means that the user pressed enter on the keyboard. So you can control the enter by controlling the space in your case. Note, if the system processes the same screen again, it also runs through all the PBO models again. If you decide to fill the table structure in a PBO model, you must make sure the data changes made by the user are not overridden on the screen if the model gets called twice. So if I specify the same screen number and I press enter, all the PBO models will be run again, so you must be very careful with that. So let's take a look at this code. We're going to write the set screen 0 when we press back, and we're going to set the screen 0 when we press save, and we're going to include some code for saving the changes in the database later on. For right now, we're just going to print a message that tells us that the changes were saved, type S. And remember that we need to assign 100 to our screen number, and we are going to override it using the set screen ABAP statement. So let's go back to our program. So now, back in our program, when we press the back, we're going to set word. First of all, let's navigate to our screen and assign the next screen with 100 before we code. So we double click the screen. Yes, I want to save before leaving. And now if I go to the attributes and I go to the next screen, I see that 100 is already specified. This means that when this screen is closed, then it is going to be processed. The next screen is going to be the same screen. Now we go back to the flow logic and to our model. We double click. It doesn't exist. Wait, I'm going to cancel here. I'm going to go to my include. Yes. And wait, I have a problem with the includes. So let's go back. Double click. Yes, create. Here. Let's do something. Let's create it again, but let's do it in a new include that is going to be called the same but B. So let's create that in a new include. Yes, yes. And now I can code again my data. Okay, code like sci you come, and I write my case. Okay, code went back and when save. So when I press back, I'm going to set my screen to 0. That means I'm going to go back to the screen that called me, that is to my basic list. And I'm going to send a message. You left the screen without saving. Type S. And when you click save, the saving changes in the database code goes here. I'm not going to write it for now. I'm just going to set the screen to 0 to go back, and I'm going to display the message changes saved. Type S. So I check my syntax, and I have an error here. So I'm going to delete this. I'm going to activate everything I have. I get an error when I try to activate, and this is telling me my user command. This is because I have two includes. This is because before showing you the program, I created this include earlier. You won't have this same problem, I guarantee you, because you only have one include. Because I have two includes, I have to erase one. So let me correct the problem, and then I'm going to come back again with you. So how do I correct it? My problem, I had to rename my model to 100_B, and when I double click, it takes me to my include with the same name but with an _B. Remember that I have this because I had two includes doing the same. You that are creating this include for the first time, you can create your include with the B or without the B, and you are not going to have the same problem. So now that I have it done, I run my program. So I double click my program. Remember to double click your program before running it, and then direct processing. Then for example, I select New York, and if I select back, I have you left the screen without saving, and it takes me back. I want to select another one, for example Rome, and I go back. For example, I want to see the LH from Berlin to Frankfurt. So it displays the LH from Berlin, the flight duration and the departure time. If I press save, the save is executed, changes saved, and I go back to my screen. Now let me show you something. For example, I go back to New York. Remember what happens when we press enter? As you can see, it is saving again. We press enter and it is saving again. And we haven't programmed yet a function for the enter. So why is this happening? Let's take a look at it one more time. I navigate. I haven't clicked save. I'm going to press enter. And it's executing the saved function group. So this is an unintentional function code transmission. If the user now selects a new record, the screen will not be processed again when he or she selects the enter button. Instead, the data is saved to the database and the user is returned to the basic list. Why? When the user saves the data, the function code saved is transported to the OK code variable within the program. When the screen is called the second time, after the row has been selected again, the PBO field contents are transferred to the screen. As the OK code variable still contains the save, this is transported to the command field of the screen. So, how to avoid this? Avoiding unintended function codes. To eliminate the above described undesirable response of our program, we have to make sure that no unintentional function codes are transferred to the command field of the screen. There are two basic options. You initialize the program internal OK code variable in a PBO model before the field transferred to the screen, or you use an auxiliary field in the PAI processing, copy the value of the OK code variable into this field, and initialize OK code at this point already. So we're going to implement solution number 1. We're going to create a PBO model to initialize our OK code so we can prevent this error from happening. Let's go back to our program. So remember the problem we have. So let's go back. Now, as you can see, the back is working because we programmed the PIA model. So how do we correct the problem that we have? So we have to create a PBO model. So this model is going to be called we erase this proposed name, and it's going to be called the clear OK code model. I'm going to use B because I have a previously named model exactly the same. So you can just go ahead and call it clear OK code or use the B, whatever you want. Yes, I want to create it, and I'm going to create a new include for my PBO model. So PBO 100 underscore B because I have another one exactly the same. So in this new include, I'm going to write I'm going to clear my OK code or initialize it. So I use the clear OK code. So now every time the screen is processed, the OK code will be empty. It will not be retaining another function code. So now I activate everything. I go back to my program and I run one more time. Double click the first one, save, and I go back, change the save. Double click this one, DL, press enter, and as you can see, nothing is happening because I didn't program the enter. But now it is not keeping the save functionality in the enter. Can go back. I left the screen without saving. Enter. As you can see, nothing happens when I press the enter or this field. Let's write something when you press the enter just to notice the difference. So I go back to my user command, and when others or when space, I'm going to message enter type S, just that we know that we press enter. Others is going to be enter for now. So go back, run, select this one, enter, and enter is pressed, or enter on the keyboard. Save, I go back, double click, I navigate back, and now you have your first screen with the push buttons and their function codes assigned, and now you are able to program screens using PBO and PAI models. So now, you should be able to list attributes and benefits of screens, implement a simple screen with input and output fields as well as push buttons and call it from your program, explain and implement the program internal processing for